We follow up that drama on the horrors of a nuclear attack with a documentary tomorrow night on 2, which examines the accumulating evidence that smoke and dust from a nuclear conflict could plunge the Northern Hemisphere into a long and freezing twilight. On the 8th day, tomorrow night at 9:30. Followed at 10:30 by the Newsnight nuclear debate with John Tuser exploring the issues raised by the drama and the documentary with politicians, defence analysts and military experts from both sides of the Atlantic. Tomorrow morning, breakfast time at 6:30 on BBC1, we'll be talking to some of the people from Sheffield who took part in Threads. And there'll also be further discussion of the drama in Radio 3's Critics Forum next Saturday evening at 5:45. On BBC1 now, Everyman profiles Father Ted Kennedy, one of Australia's most powerful spokesmen in the movement for Aborigine rights. Here on 2, it's 11:29. And in 5 minutes we provide further darts coverage from Redcar. Now, news on 2 with Jan Leeming.
Another British holidaymaker has been murdered in Spain. 44-year-old David Matheson was stabbed to death in front of his wife and children near their hotel in Lloret de Mar. It's the latest in a wave of attacks on British tourists, and Spanish authorities, worried that the holiday trade may be hit, have stepped up police patrols. Christopher Morris has the details.
The Mathesons and their 2 teenage children were attacked while returning to their hotel after an evening out with other British holidaymakers. A car tried to run them down, and 2 of the attackers attempted to snatch Mrs. Matheson's handbag. She resisted, was hit on the head with a pistol, and Mr. Matheson, who went to her aid, was stabbed to death. The gang fired several shots as they escaped in the car. It's the 3rd violent attack on British holidaymakers within a month. In Torremolinos on the Costa del Sol, a London woman was murdered and her friends seriously wounded by muggers armed with knives, who also tried to snatch their handbags. And near Madrid, while hitchhiking, 2 20-year-old girls from Exeter were shot and robbed after they'd accepted a lift. One of them was blinded in an eye by shotgun pellets. It's been a black year for such attacks on British holidaymakers in Spain, with hundreds of similar crimes at coastal resorts. Special police squads have been set up to combat the muggers, but with little success.
The Foreign Office say they're very concerned about a possible abuse of diplomatic immunity by an Iranian embassy official. The police say the man slaughtered a sheep as a religious sacrifice outside his home in southwest London and then escaped prosecution only by claiming diplomatic privilege. The Iranian lives in a residential suburb. Yesterday morning he brought a sheep into the road outside, ceremonially slit its throat above a drain and retired indoors. The local MP, who's also a Home Office minister, says he's protesting on behalf of his constituents.
My constituents were shocked and outraged by this, and so I'm sure will any civilised person reading about it. Plainly it's unacceptable for a live animal to be taken out into a quiet suburban street and have its throat ripped out in front of onlookers, and I think at the very least my constituents will want is an apology and an undertaking that this sort of thing will not be permitted to happen again.
In New York, President Reagan should be having his first brief encounter with a Soviet leader about now. He's expected to meet the Soviet Foreign Minister Andrei Gromyko at a cocktail party for the new UN General Assembly. It's a prelude to the formal talks they'll have on East-West relations next Friday. Moscow has announced new honours for President Chernenko, who's 73 tomorrow. He's been awarded the Order of Lenin, his 3rd, and the Hammer and Sickle Gold Medal. The citation praises his great personal contribution to strengthening peace and security. The Swiss have again voted not to ban nuclear power stations. It's their 2nd referendum on the issue. 5 years ago, just over half the voters were against scrapping nuclear power. Today, the no vote had risen to 55%. In the Netherlands, British veterans of Arnhem were joined today by Prince Charles in a service of remembrance. It's 40 years since the battle which only 1 in 5 British soldiers survived.
The Arnhem Cemetery was filled with British and Dutch veterans. "13,000 British soldiers were killed or injured at Arnhem in a battle described as Britain's second Dunkirk. Local children stood by every grave with a bunch of flowers for each of the 1,747 Allied soldiers buried here.
Finally, about an hour ago, a London man who teaches karate during the week finished a long, hard Sunday doing press-ups. In 14 hours, to be accurate, Paul Lynch did 10,753 press-ups, which gives him a new world record. Mr. Lynch already held the world one-arm press-up title, and now at his second attempt he's exceeded the two-arm record by 724. That's all from the newsroom for this weekend. Good night.
A look at the weather now. Northern and eastern Britain will be showery again, and showers will develop in many other areas during the day. However, the showers will be rather fewer and mostly lighter than today's, with a little more sunshine between. It will feel cold in the fresh or strong north to northwest winds. Now on to more of the British Professional Darts Championship from Redcar, introduced by Tony Gubber.
Hello there, welcome back to Redcar, where just two places now remain to be filled in the second round of this Unipart British Professional Darts Championship. The 32 players who began this 7-day tournament yesterday have already been whittled down to just 14, and tonight the first round has been reaching its conclusion.